So after Pakistan being rattled by Dhurandhar, China is seeing red over an upcoming film on the Galwan clash. Salman Khan's star, Battle of Galwan, based on the deadly June 2020 India-China clash in Ladakh, has triggered a sharp reaction on the other side of the line of actual control. So China's state-run media, they've gone after this film. They've questioned the portrayal of events. They've accused India of using cinema to push nationalism. New Delhi, however, made one thing very clear, of course, through sources, that the government has no role to play in films and that creative freedom stands in India. So why is Beijing so rattled 5 years after Galwan? Let's find out in this report.
Bhaijan is back on the big screen, this time with the Battle of Galwan, a film based on the June 2020 clash between Indian and Chinese troops in the Galwan Valley of eastern Ladakh. Directed by Apurva Lakhia, the film stars Salman Khan as Colonel Santosh Babu, the commanding officer of the 16th Bihar Regiment, who laid down his life defending India's territorial integrity. Chitrangda Singh plays the female lead. The trailer has generated massive buzz across India, stirring emotions, pride and remembrance. But across the border, Beijing appears rattled. China's state-run newspaper Global Times has taken a sharp aim at the film, alleging that its portrayal of the June 2020 clash does not align with facts. The article dismisses the film as over the top and even undermines Colonel Babu's sacrifice by calling his role so-called pivotal. The report also accuses India of using cinema to stir nationalistic sentiment, calling it reflective of a deeply rooted cultural and political tradition. But the propaganda doesn't stop there. Global Times has falsely placed responsibility for the June 15, 2020 clash squarely on India, alleging that Indian forces violated the line of actual control and deliberately provoked the situation in the Galwan Valley. But Bharat's story is different and is backed by proof. When China released the footage of the face-off, it showed a young Indian army officer leading from the front, standing firm against aggression. That officer was Captain Soiba from Manipur's Senapati district. On June 15, 2020, he led soldiers of the 16th Bihar Regiment during the confrontation in the Galwan Valley and was later honored by the Manipur Chief Minister for his bravery. Amid the controversy, government sources have clarified that the Indian government has no role in the making of the film and that filmmakers enjoy creative freedom. Bharat knows its truth, Beijing knows it too. So why the outrage? 5 years later, China still avoids transparency. It continues to reshape narratives and relies on propaganda. And this raises some important questions. If China's version of events is so solid, then why fear a film? If history is truly on Beijing's side, why attempt to silence another perspective? In a world where borders are contested not just on the ground but in the minds, is cinema really the threat? Or is it the truth? Bureau Report, India Today.
Why fear a film? Joining me on India First is Einar Tangen. He's a senior fellow at the Center for International Governance, Innovation, of course, and chairman of the Asia Narrative. He joins us from Beijing. Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan is former member of the National Security Advisory Board, former defense attaché at the Indian mission in China. Gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Tangen, how do you interpret Global Times' accusation that the film Battle of Galwan distorts historical facts about the 2020 clash? Why do you think, sir, China or the newspaper is so impacted by an Indian film?
Well, I don't think it's so impacted. I mean, what they do is they believe they have their own narrative. India has theirs, and what you see here is a movie. It's not reality. It's in part fiction, of course, but it's just a movie. So I think they're being a little bit sensitive. But at a time when we have so much conflict going on in the world, I think China would like to see less conflict and therefore less appeals to nationalism. So I think they're concerned. Remember, the background of this was that things were de-escalating. And from the Chinese perspective, there was an attempt to kick over a tent that the Chinese said that they were about to take down. This resulted in a melee. Many of the soldiers who died on the Indian side uh, died of hypothermia because they got pushed into a ravine that at the bottom of was water, and they literally died from hypothermia and things like this. So it was a very tragic incident. Been better off if it had not happened. But when you put soldiers in close proximity like this, you're bound to have consequences like similar to this.
True. Jen Narasimhan, your reading of the unease and the Global Times article on this film Galwan, soldiers being put in close proximity would indicate, had the Chinese not come there, India wouldn't have had to put troops to counter their presence in that area.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav, for getting me on the show. And it's a topic which has just come up after 3 days before this teaser was released, and now reactions have started coming. But it has come from Global Times and probably in Weibo in couple of places. But the government of China has not actually made any kind of remark on this as yet. That is one. The second thing is, it is only a teaser that has been put out. The whole movie has not come out as yet. I don't know why people have to react to a teaser which has just been put out at this point in time. But they need to wait till the entire movie comes out, and thereafter that can be analyzed subsequently. But this can be understood basically because, as Mr. Ainar mentioned, since last year there has been some kind of stability in the relationship between India and China, and this building up of nationalism may create certain issues in that particular aspect, is what probably the Chinese side may be feeling. But let me put this in the right perspective. It took 5 years for us to do the disengagement part in full, and still 2 more steps of de-escalation and de-induction are left. That is to be done further. And notwithstanding all that, the political relationship also has stabilized a little bit. So hopefully things will continue in this manner. I think there's a little overreaction from the Chinese side is what I think, because it's just a teaser that has been put out. And I went through the teaser a couple of times to see whether anything very adverse is there. At the moment, I don't see anything adverse happening there. It only says defending of India's territory is what is being said. So we'll have to wait for the entire movie to come out and then see what happens there.
Oh, absolutely. And both of you are absolutely right, because, tensions are coming down on either side, even though that may well just be tactical, Einar tangent, because disengagement may have taken place, de-induction hasn't taken place, de-escalation of tensions really hasn't taken place, just disengagement as yet. But the Global Times is trying to dismiss Colonel Santosh Babu's role as so-called pivotal to this entire controversy. Why would China be so interested in what an Indian movie depicts about an Indian commanding officer? Is there an apprehension that whatever China may have been trying to build may be called out? Because in India, nationalism is never seen as a bad thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the Chinese government and the newspapers, especially now, are extremely sensitive. They're dealing with this situation in Japan, where Japan has indicated first that they think that there's some reason that they can interfere in Taiwan, and second, that they think that nuclear weapons is the next solution. Obviously, this is heightened tensions at this moment in time. China is mounting a live fire exercise that
Yes.
basically rehearses cutting off access to Taiwan. So it's very, very difficult to sort all of this out, except from the emotional point of view. So at this point, I would agree with my colleague. It's time to put this aside. This is a Bollywood movie. This is an actor who had 2 movies that he wasn't satisfied with, and he's hoping this will be a blockbuster. Obviously, picking on a theme that would stir nationalism is very much part of that. But we should not be exchanging fact for fiction. Or fiction for fact. And as he suggested, we should be waiting to see what is there and not take it with too much seriousness.
True. because we're still to learn of the reality on the Chinese side. While India being a democracy, Mr. Tangent was, put out the fatalities and casualties on the Indian side. The Chinese side, for some reason, didn't do so for quite some time, and only then gave out some details and not all. General Narasimhan, from a military perspective, what is your reading of, one, China being upset about highlighting individual bravery of an Indian official or highlighting the situation on ground, and of course the Chinese silence on the casualties on the Chinese side?
Two things. One is, let me take the Chinese casualties figures first. I mean, we can't be for sure say how many casualties Chinese suffered. They have, of course, announced that they suffered 4. That is fine. But that is generally the nature of the government in China. Even if you take your mind back, 1962 casualties are also not clear as of now. So it is a long drawn kind of a thing that the Chinese have, that method. That is their own way of doing things. That is one. Second thing about the individual bravery. I mean, initially they didn't accept the casualties. Thereafter, there is a sense of nationalism that we could see in the Chinese social media. They also actually brought into prominence Senior Colonel Chief Apao, who was given the prime of place in certain events, etc. So I think nations do play up individual bravery that creates a sense of nationalism, sense of belonging, sense of patriotism, that I think all countries do. I'm sure Chinese also did that. That is why I'm surprised as to why they're actually not comfortable with Colonel Santosh's bravery. If regimental commander Chief Apao can be brought into prominence, I am sure Colonel Santosh Babu also has his role to play in that event. So I think we need to see it as more sense of balance. I think there's a sense of little imbalance at this moment. I think when the movie comes out and everybody sees it, I think things will settle down. And Government of India has played it very, very maturely to say that the government hand is not there in making this film. And of course, we in India allow the free movie makers to have more sense of freedom to make their own movies the way they wanted. And I'm sure the movie makers also would have done a lot of research. I mean, there are, if you go to the social media, there are reports of how the research has been done, etc. So I think we need to wait and watch. I think this is a little overreaction which has taken place. Let us put it aside, and then let us see how the relationship remains stable till the future can be seen.
Oh, absolutely. The relationship should stay stable. Both my respected guests have argued that. Einar Tanjan, in this Global Times article, China actually pins the responsibility for the clash on India. They claim Indian troops crossed the LAC and provoked the confrontation. Your facts, your movie, or the way you may want to put it out, but the facts on ground remain Tibet, occupied by China. Your army came in, your troops came in, your additional forces came in, and India mounted a response, mobilizing forces only in response to Chinese mobilization, sir, the way we look at it.
Yeah, obviously countries look at it differently. I'm not Chinese, I'm an American. I've lived here about a third of my life. So, I mean, what China sees this as going back to the 62 war. And they have their narrative. Obviously, India has theirs. I don't expect them to adopt each other's. But the point is, you can't change the past. Right now, India has bigger problems. It has a U.S. problem. Tariffs, interference in elections, false claims about making peace, and all this type of thing. China would love to see things remain on track. They don't want to have, a bunch of embarrassments that get in the way of having better relations. India is never going to be like China. China is never going to be like India. But both want security. They want development. They want to be respected for the cultures and countries that they are. And obviously, there has to be a mechanism for them to talk instead of, throwing tanks and big brickbats at each other. So hopefully that is the future. And you can put aside all this kind of stuff as to who is a hero and who was not.
Sure. General Narasimhan, China, or some analysts believe that India has huge problems. Many would argue China's problems are even bigger given the tensions with Japan, the situation with Taiwan right now, Taiwan, mounting their own exercising and air operations with the violation of their air defense identification zones, China's issues with the United States. In all of this, what I want to understand from you is, why do India's neighbors get rattled by Hindi films? Pakistan got very rattled with Dhurandhar. China's upset with this, or the Chinese state media is upset with this film on Galwan. Is their narrative so carefully constructed collapsing?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, that's taking again things a little too far. Don't forget, there was a Wolf Warrior movie in China which talked about US mercenaries acting against China and China reacting to it. There was also another movie on the Chinese Air Force, the way they were looking at the counter-terrorism aspects. So I think every country makes such movies. I'm sure Americans also make it. Every country makes it. That is one issue. Second issue is, I think there is a sense of, I would say, there are too many things happening around China. You talked about Japan, issues with Japan, issues with Taiwan. They already started a blockade a couple of days ago, and that is still going on in some form around Taiwan. And not only that, there are other issues with the US, the Russia-Ukraine campaign not showing any kind of let-up. You find the Middle East again up in the arms. So you find that, this entire thing is up in the air and with a lot of flux in the international system. So that is, I'm sure they don't want to add one more to it. And that is one issue that could actually rattle them a little bit to say that, why should we add one more to it? So the issue is that we are now taking and discussing two things. One, what was Global Times mentioned? People Daily has not mentioned anything on this. China Daily has not mentioned anything on this. The other newspapers, which are actually the government's mouthpieces, they are not actually said anything much on this. I think Global Times is known to react in this manner in some form or the other. So I think we need to take all this into account when we analyze this. And so I wouldn't attribute any much motives into this. I think it is a reaction by one newspaper, the Global Times, which has been picked up and then played up. I think we'll have to wait for more mature, more balanced kind of reaction from the Chinese government or Chinese mouthpieces. Then you can take it up for discussions. At the moment, I would say that I think we should take it for what it is, that it is a report by Global Times, and that is what is being discussed at this point in time.
Very interesting. And, Mr. Ainar Tanjan and General Narasimhan, many thanks for this discussion here on India Today. Let's see how this develops. And more than a reaction to a movie, let's see how the situation on the line of actual control pans out in the coming months. Hopefully, there will be de-escalation and ultimately de-induction for the relationship to return on an even keel. Because for the relationship to grow, there needs to be peace and tranquility at the borders. That is all I have for you on this India First special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.